Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's Marcus from MOTIV8, and we are back for episode 5 of this season's podcast. Everybody all right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We are officially done with election season.
Bless God.
You, Jesus. I swear to you, people you never thought didn't like you will tell you that they don't like you in election season. Over one person. At this point, though, how's everybody feeling?
Over one old white man.
Dang.
Because they both old and white.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, we got,
Well.
it depends on how this thing turns out. Hopefully well.
Yeah, a lot of people's Facebooks have been Facebook friend lists have been modified.
Yes, it has.
Yes.
A lot of people have found themselves deleted on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean,
Good old blocked, muted.
I just wish the
Whatever you
Saints
wanna
talked about Black lives and, you know, border patrol and, you know, families being separated
I
as
was
much
about to
as
say all
election.
these
But, you
kids
know,
at the border. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
don't get me started on that. Which
We
brings me
appreciate
to
y'all.
our topic for this week, which is compassion or the lack thereof.
I think the lack thereof is more fitting.
Bingo. So I'm going to read this definition for our
We're not
listeners.
hurt. We're not hurt. We're not bitter. We're not salty.
No, we're not. We're real. I'm gonna read this definition for our listeners who take notes because we do
I
have
don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all can be better people. That ain't me.
He said, no, I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm all of it.
So here's the definition for compassion. The definition for compassion is to have compassion means to empathize with someone who is suffering and to feel compelled to reduce the suffering.
Jesus.
To empathize with someone who is suffering and to feel compelled to reduce the suffering. Has anybody been feeling a little bit less compassionate this season? Or more?
Challenge to be more compassionate, if anything. Because just it's so tense. There's not a social political issue that you can talk about without some high level of resistance or
Saltiness?
you know, Salt Bay, okay, whatever. You know what? It's just a minefield. It's very difficult to have in-depth conversations with people now.
Yeah.
And so I feel more challenged to be compassionate because there are lots of people who have opinions that I do not agree with.
Yeah. A lot of people who I don't agree with, who I usually may. And that's where I feel like in this season it's a little difficult because you'll sit there and like, dang, you really think that? And, you know, with politics and, you know, social justice system, you know, things like that, it's like, dang, I was banging with you hard. And it's like you had to post that thing on Facebook and now I look at you different.
I can't even be your friend. Like,
But that's something I want to talk about. Do you find yourself being compassionate in this season? If you don't agree with someone, is it right now mindset cut it? Or is it, I'm going to let you stay to listen?
I think for me, it has been more of a, I want to figure out why you feel this way or why you have this mindset. And for example, I was, it's simple, in the Arby's drive-thru, and everybody does it. Before I even saw the back of their vehicle, this guy drove up in a big truck, a pickup truck, and cut me off and drove in the drive-thru before me. And I was like, okay, Lord, all right, I'm not going to do it today. But he was a big white guy. He had on them glasses. Y'all know the glasses.
The Oakleys.
Yeah, he had on the glasses. And I was thinking, and I thought in my mind, he's probably a Trump supporter. And then
Going there.
but this is literally what has gone through my mind, what was going through my mind at the time. And once I actually drove up, he had a Trump 2020 bumper sticker. And I was like, dang. And I felt bad because I was like, how many other people profile Black people or Latino people just off of the same things and stereotype? And as soon as the spirit checked me, I was like, wow. But I would want to ask him, like, how many of us are really open to sit down and say, okay, why do you support this? Or why do you feel this way? And to me, your sphere of influence is your sphere of influence. If you don't know, you're ignorant. I'm ignorant to the fact because I don't understand your culture. I don't know how you grew up. So in my mind, after that situation, it has been, okay, instead of just cutting people off, if we are going to, especially as Black people, want to be accepted, you know, and just want equality across the board. These conversations have to happen on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there has to be some sort of forgiveness, especially as a believer. We can't just keep people in the same box because of what they did in their past. If we are going to allow them redemption to ask questions, the questions are going to be difficult, you know, to answer. The stereotypes are going to be hard to get over. But if we can sit down to have those conversations, to me, I think it would be beneficial to everybody, because like we do, it's like, oh, nope, unfriend, block,
no, I'm petty.
Mute.
I'll be like,
I don't want to hear it.
Unfollow. You still gonna catch mine. I just won't see you.
I haven't unfriended or unfollowed anybody, regardless of their viewpoint, because to me, I think it's more, like I said, that educational. I want to know why you feel this way or how you feel this way. Can you really back it up, but still be open enough to hear what I have to say?
But that's where I think the conversation goes from. Are we going to communicate, or is your mindset coming in this conversation only to change my mind?
Well, people, they don't know how to listen, which means they don't know how to communicate. Because if you're going to communicate with someone, for one, you take responsibility for what they hear, not just what you say, but what they hear.
That's good.
And so most people don't listen.
Nope.
Especially if you don't agree. It's just like a red flag. And then just in my case, responses to people, I've posted things on social media, you know, I've said things, whatever. And they'll try to demonize me like I'm a bad person. And that's how I know they're not trying to listen to anything I'm saying, because they're trying to make the thing that I'm talking about like me. That's my personality, like all in one. And I'm like, no.
So do you feel in this season it's been tougher as a believer to show empathy and compassion?
100%.
And it's like, crap, my flesh wants me to say
100%.
this, but it's like, as a believer, I gotta, you know, I gotta respond with love.
If we're gonna call a spade, there are people who are so outspoken about, or who have been so outspoken about their political candidate, and lifting them up to sort of a place of glory.
I'm about to say God level.
When that political candidate does not exemplify any of the characteristics that you find in the Bible. And I'm not just talking about one over I'm talking about both of them.
Both of them.
And so if you are going to glorify a candidate, I would challenge you to check your character. If you're going to tell someone, watch what you post on social media, but then you're promoting a candidate who is hypocritical in what they say, what you're putting out into the world is do as I say, not as I do. And that is not what God has called us to do. It's to do as I do. I think Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ.
That's exactly.
And so we have a responsibility to live in a way that is outside of the norm. And so, I don't know, it's a heavy responsibility, heavy accountability.
And difficult. It's difficult to do, especially if you're not used to operating through the Holy Spirit. Because a lot of times that flesh rise up. The Bible says the spirit and the flesh, they're at war, literally. It just comes down to which one is stronger, which one are you feeding more. And like, is it harder as a believer to be compassionate and to show empathy? Yes, because if somebody offends you, especially when it comes down to a thing that you can't control, as far as being Black or being Latino or being white, and you're really offended about that, that flesh can rise up quick. And it's try Jesus, not me, because I throw hands.
I changed it. Try Jesus, not me, because I shoot. I ain't buy these bullets to let them store up. Shoot. We said we don't throw hands no more. We throw lead.
I made investments. Is all I'm going to say.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm done.
But it can get very, very difficult to where you really have to sometimes just not react and literally assess so that you can respond in a godly way that is not going to ruin your witness. And I think that's one of the biggest topics of discussion that we've had as the Universal Church, seeing the disconnect and the fighting and the discord between Christians, on social media. It's been mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really difficult. You just got to call a spade a spade. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and a house divided cannot stand, point blank, period. So what are we going to do about it?
I think the mindset of, if we're dealing with the political conversation right now, is the church needs to understand God's not American.
Hello.
It has never been.
And God is not wrapped in the American flag.
And he coming back
So
to Israel.
Olive skin with hair like wool, but we're not talking about that.
Yeah. But if we're talking about that, if you remove that out, it's like politics seems like the only time that the evangelical church or other churches get vocal. Between that and abortion. And it's like you're really vocal about abortion and being against it, but it's like you don't care as much for the person when they're actually living and on the earth and walking. It's like, oh, save black babies. The black babies are, being killed at an alarming rate due to abortion clinics. And it's like, but you ain't saying nothing when they getting gunned down. So it's like, where is that compassion? Oh, we getting real. Where is that compassion? Because even with that, I have this conversation with a lot of friends. It's you're out there picketing and outside the abortion clinics and places telling them not to do it. It's like, where are your people to stand out there and provide counseling for the ones who do?
Because people want to pick and choose what to be compassionate about. I'm not saying that the abortion cause or pro-choice cause is not something to be passionate or compassionate about or invest in. Mm-hmm. Do whatever your conviction is. Yeah. But if you are going to do that, then be balanced in it. The Bible just doesn't only talk about one sort of thing. It's okay. What are you doing with the widow? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How are you feeding the hungry? Yeah. What are you doing to, address homelessness? In this case, we're in a more modern, era. What are you doing about, kids who need to be educated? What are you doing about, kids who need to eat before they go to school? Yeah. What about the people who are in poverty who attend your church? But you're vocal about abortion. And so to me, it's revelatory, not in the sense of negative, but okay, I know that you can have compassion concerning this issue. As a Christian to another Christian, I want to see you be compassionate about more things than one thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If we're going to call people to snuff, let's call them to snuff on all of it. Yeah. You're going to be
not like
pro-abortion.
Choose one and that's it.
Exactly. And so people will invest lots of money into, political candidates or organizations that do only one thing, which isn't bad. I would challenge you is the Bible talks about he gives seed to the sower. So if you're going to sow into those things, then he will give you seed to sow into other things. Yeah. And so, I talk about this with my close Christian friends all the time. I don't want to hear what you got to say politically. Nope. If you're not going to approach it in a balanced way, like it's just not. Yeah. It's not going to be a productive conversation for us if we can't agree back to the Bible. Before we even talk about the political issue, if we can't come back to the Bible, then we're not having a productive conversation in between two Christians. Yeah. Now, if I was talking to someone who was unsaved, okay, you let some stuff go. It's just opinion. No, you call me to snuff on the Bible, I call you to snuff on the Bible. Yeah. Then we can grow together.
In reading scripture in context is major. No, it's good. That's really good. Reading it in context, because a lot of people will take scripture out of context and use it as a weapon. And it's like, if you have to use the Bible as a bullet, you're out of order. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work like that. You don't just, when you losing in an argument and someone's presenting you facts, well, the word says, it's like, you should have led with that. So I feel like having this conversation and compassion, especially dealing with, like we're talking about, the border issue of kids still being separated from their families, and we're not hearing anything about it. It's like we have literal churches allowing political candidates to come in on a Sunday, and it's like you haven't said anything, not a word, beyond the moment that the parents were separated from their kids. But now we're talking about parents who don't even know where their kids are. Their kids don't even know where their parents are, and it's like, how are you silent? How is it that you can say you are the church and you have compassion? Yes, you give food away, but you don't know who you're giving food away to. How many people are in your church? When I remember we had this conversation with the pastors in the community, and they were all on this conversation about they want to do this program. I said, how many of you guys, this when DACA and all that stuff was getting repealed and all that stuff. I said, how many of you guys know in your church, if your church has a sanctuary law, if you have a member in your church who is not legally here, what can you do to help them? Ain't nobody have an answer, but everybody know how many members each church has. Out of order. How can we have the conversation of we're looking to expand the kingdom and all this? It's like you can't choose one demographic and say that's all we're worried about and get mad when people don't want to come to church. Like when I'm having this conversation about compassion, my biggest thing is if we're talking about the reason why this generation is not being engaged to the church, our generation, and excuse me if I'm wrong, correct me, our generation is really big on works. We're really big on community service, and we're really big about putting your money where your mouth is. So if you don't have anything to do with the community and you're not worried about current issues, we're not coming. We're not. Like, you can tell me to come on Sunday. You can tell me to come on Wednesday. You can tell me to come on any of these days. But when the conversation is, so what are you doing for the community?
I don't think it's we're not coming. It's we'll come, but we won't be invested. Mm-hmm. The benefit of the church isn't just I can get my own, healing, whatever, just for me.
Yeah.
But the reason you're planted in the church is because together, what we do, we advance together.
Yeah.
So while you're in the process of getting healed personally, us together, we're moving forward together. And so if a church doesn't have any sort of community
outreach,
if they don't have that, then you've essentially joined a group of
a social club,
stagnant Christians.
Yeah,
because God didn't call for us just to be, okay, we're going to gather together, sing his praises, blah, 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 then go about our own business. Absolutely not. He called the church to take ground, to go and get people to join the kingdom. The Bible says we're called to make disciples. How do I make a disciple? I have to be invested in the community that I live in.
Yeah.
I have to address the issues. When Jesus preached, it wasn't, I'm just going to go preach. If they was hungry, he fed them first.
Bingo.
Then he preached.
Yeah. That's good.
And so if your church is not doing that, I would challenge you to, talk to your pastors and leaders to see what their plans are. And if they don't have any, maybe it's time for you to move churches.
Well, I think even beyond are you doing something? I think the question is, what do you do after? Because there's a lot of churches who will say, oh, we're in the community. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. Yes, you're in the community. You go to these impoverished areas. But how many people in those impoverished areas would feel comfortable walking into your church on a Sunday? You present the opportunity to go out, just give, like it's some yearly thing. And it's like, oh, hey, here's photos we gave. And it's like, okay, but how many of those people aren't in the same position to receive the next year? How many people are jobless?
That's a good question.
And it's like, okay, well, we have someone in the church who's looking for an employee or job openings, or we're having job training, or we're doing something to get you off the street. It's like, we'll come out for a photo op, but we're not compassionate enough to change your situation, even though we have the means to. I have this argument all the time. How many churches are throwing money into advertising budgets, Christmas productions, Easter productions, new stage designs, social media marketing, all that? And it's like you literally are giving away a salary when you got people in your church who literally don't know where their meal is coming from. And they literally sit there, but you don't have compassion enough to spread it out. Which brings me to the scripture. Y'all got me riled. I'm sorry. I like this conversation. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32 says this. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. That's the mandate. So how?
Well, it's a number of things that both of you guys said. I'm going to go back because you all talked about the whole political thing and you're only dealing with one stance. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing you're compassionate about. When you talk about this whole abortion conversation, I really hone in on these conversations because, like you said, you're picking it out front, trying to stop women from going in, but do you have the same compassion when they're coming out?
Yeah.
And I think that is a big issue. You tried to talk to me and stop me when I went in, but when I came out, you treated me like a leper. And so when you get to that conversation, that really shows the heart, of people. And it's a broader discussion because when you talk about one thing, you can't just stick to one thing because if you're sticking to one thing, you forget everything else, the ripple effect behind that one thing. If you want me to stop going into this building from having this abortion, or you help me, I can get assistance when the baby comes up to a year. After that, where y'all at? But even if I decide not to have this baby,
Where y'all at?
Where y'all at?
No, but and if I do decide to have the baby, but I still do not want this child, it's difficult to get adoption going. Adoption laws need to change if we're going to have this conversation.
Well,
there is a ripple effect of things that need to change if you all want to put a mandate on what a woman can decide to do.
come on here. That's good.
So when you talk about being one-sided and one-viewed, you block out everything else that's affected by that one thing. And it's the same thing with Black Lives Matter. It's the same thing with politics. You cannot just stick to one side.
No.
You have to be able to look at the bigger picture and figure out it's not just one type of person that's affected by this.
That's good.
And people have to really take into, and that comes back to empathy and compassion. Can you really say that you can put yourself in this person's shoes and feel what they're feeling? And you don't know what it's like at home for them. Mm-hmm. You don't know how they were raised. You don't know who they have supporting them.
Yeah.
So you have to really, that's compassion. That is empathy, putting yourself in that person's shoes to understand and say, okay, well, how would I do this? But a lot of people cannot do that because they've never even been in that place. They've never even had a mindset to even think like, oh, that could happen to me. Because they've never seen it, they've never been able to feel it, they've never been able to touch it or even touch somebody who has gone through it.
Nor do they want to.
Yeah,
Nor
bingo.
do they want to.
They don't want to.
And that's the issue. When you talk about compassion, especially as a believer, I question your character when you don't even want to understand what I have been through as a person or what, this person has gone through and seen and heard and experienced in their life. That's when I question your character.
That's good. I mean, I'm just reminded even when I know it's like we're going back in time, but even with like the Black Lives Matters movement, and you see a lot of people who were so hell bent against it, but they never had the conversation to where it's like, no, we're not talking about an organization. We're talking about the statement. Well, that organization believes in, separating the concept of what a godly family looks like. It's like, no, boo-boo, get beyond who's telling you this, depending on whatever channels news you watch at 5, 6, 4, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whoever. You should be tapped into the Holy Ghost. But it's like, depending on whatever news station you watch, you're going to believe whatever you're hearing. Compassion is I'll get beyond what a talking head is going to say, and I'm going to have conversation with you. And I remember, this is going back, I had a gentleman on my Facebook, and he posted this article, and this is the whole George Floyd situation. And he posted saying, a group of young blacks deface Vietnam Memorial in D.C. after Black Lives Matter rally. And I sent them a message. I said, hey, because the comments were lit. They was going in. Like, these are criminals and degenerates and they'll rally, but they won't do this and don't go get a job. It was so much. And part of me wanted to be like, let me hop in these comments and read y'all to filth.
No, listen.
But what I did was I was like, all right, Lord, I'm not going to do that. So I sent them a message and I said, hey, man, just trying to be real with you. I said, here's a news article that debunks what you're saying. That's actually not a real, situation. That didn't happen. And he's like, what do you mean it didn't happen? Here's the photos. I said, actually, that's from a Washington, D.C. basketball game. And they went out after the game. And it was actually a group of white guys who did what you're saying Black Lives Matter did. And it was oh, crap. And he apologized, but he didn't go correct it. So that's where it's like,
because
it
exposes when you're talking about issues where you have to show compassion, it exposes where you think the contrary to that. And so that's what he wanted to believe.
Yeah.
And so I can't demonize you for that. But what I can do is I see you in a different way now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How we have a conversation after this is different.
Yeah.
So people who post things about people who are pro-choice or they're pro-life or their Black Lives Matter movement or all lives matter or blue lives matter or whatever that thing is called. And I'm not, speaking negative of police. I think they serve a purpose. You do what you have to do. But then you post about, ooh, I just bought this, blah, 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 blah. All it does is it exposes what your character is at that moment.
Yeah.
And so as a believer, it's like, for one, not only are we supposed to be compassionate, but we're also called to be aware.
Yeah.
What is going on in your world? Who are the people connected to you? And not just, surface level, like, oh, yeah, we can be friends, blah, 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 blah. I'm watching every single thing that you post, just like people watch every single thing that I post, because it tells me what you think about that thing.
Yeah.
And so if you are not ready to post something, I think I told you guys this a while ago. If you're not ready to post something if you're trying to post something on social media and you're not ready for either agreement or disagreement,
Don't post
or all out, I hate you, then you are not ready to post something on social media. And maybe it's time for you to sit with what you actually think. Take inventory of what you actually think, because there will always be people who agree. There will always be people who disagree. And there will always be people who try to demonize you because of what you believe.
Yeah.
And so
I don't know. I think the thing that I got
throwing the book at the
that's good
at the
though.
thing.
It's real. I mean, I think one thing, if we're talking about compassion, I want to throw out there is a lot of people think compassion is not ruffling feathers, but I think they also forget that compassion is negated when you're silent. And silence speaks volumes. And your lack of compassion is broadcast like never before when you choose not to say, do, try anything. And especially as us as leaders, us as people on social media and stuff, it's tough when, like the whole Nigeria SARS situation. I saw someone get mad and literally posted a video of this artist and blasted Beyonce. And it was like, you'll come to Africa and do our culture and da-da-da-da, but you won't say end SARS. So it's like...
But she put them on.
But that's what I'm saying. There's got to be a balance to where we don't put weight into communication, to where someone feels as though the issue isn't real unless Beyonce says something about it. The issue isn't real until Oprah says something about it. Like, this isn't a real problem unless the Kardashians jump on it. It's like prison reform. And people were really getting upset. It was like, no one cared about prison reform until Kim Kardashian met with Trump about, get somebody off death, penalty. So it's like,
but they'll hold up signs, free Pookie them.
Yeah,
but they're not going to go vote. Or they're not going to call their local.
Come on here.
Come on here. Local politician, or vote for the local politician outside of the presidential election. So you don't have a voice.
I'm a side.
They didn't even vote in this election.
I'm going to say, here we go.
I'm going to throw them under the bus. You do not have a voice if you are not taking this issue beyond sort of that glorified person. The Bible talks about each joint supplies, each person supplies. So I bring something unique to the table. As I do that, we form out a whole body. Let's take it to a more practical sense. If prison reform is something that you think about often, then you need to be doing the research. You need to be looking up who says what about what. Well, have you voted for your sheriff?
Come on. Most people don't know who their sheriff is.
Let's go back. Have you paid your tickets?
Well,
but you want to be you want to be, prison reform, but you out here not paying your parking tickets.
Or don't pay taxes.
What authority do you have to stand on? You have to address ignorance all the way from the root.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you start with your own habits and then find out. Yeah, because I don't fool with these people.
Side note.
Come on.
When he said free Pookie, I'm literally losing it right now because I'm so sick of seeing people like free Devontae, free Chad. It's like, no, keep him there. He killed 9 people. It's like, what? It's just, it's the mindset of they've been wrong. So I do want to know that balance of, yes, the system is jacked up, but there is some things that need to be changed on the other side.
Absolutely. I was telling somebody about, they were talking about the prison reform thing. And if you look at communities of color versus communities of non-color, I don't know the correct political term
We'll call it the suburban.
Yeah, it's communities of color are policed more, which means that they're ticketed more, but they also can't afford more and more tickets. So then that opens up the door to, I'm okay with sipping the tea. That opens up the door to, I can't pay my ticket, now I need to go to jail.
Yes.
Then it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of, now you have this community of people who are impoverished, can't pay their tickets, so now they're policed more because, they couldn't, and now, Sheriff Johnson got to come to your house and give you some papers, so it's just like this weird, but where do you insert yourself in that? If you are not aware to the problems of your neighbor, then it's going to be difficult to address those issues. Yeah. If I attend church with someone who is constantly hungry and I choose not to give them food, and then they end up in a place where they're strung out on drugs or they're homeless or they're hopping from couch to couch, but I did nothing in terms of that process, God is not looking at them. He's looking at you.
Yeah, yeah.
He gave you the power to do it. When I was back in Georgia, when I was going to school full time, I was working full time trying to pay for an apartment and all of that stuff. I didn't have any furniture, and I would on a regular basis not have any food on a regular basis because it was just a struggle, whatever. And this lady, I know we've all been at some point in the struggle. Like there's no judgment there. There was this lady who attended my church, and she said, "God told me to give you this couch," and I was like, God didn't tell you to give me that. It was whatever. But she didn't know that I was sleeping on that same couch that she gave me.
Wow.
That couch came with, she gave me some money as well. She didn't know that money that she gave me, I was using to get groceries. And every single time I seen her, I was just like, holy smokes, you are legitimately an angel. You saved me from going hungry after 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And we serving in the same church. And so I when we talk about these issues, if you are not at least invested, that wasn't like a real deep sort of thing. I would have told you if you asked me, I'm struggling. Please help me. So there are some people who are not vocal.
That's what I was
and
ask,
they will never get to a place where they'll put sort of their problems out there. But that's on you. I'm not saying you have to be rich or whatever. But if you are at least secure enough to say, hey, I just want to see how I can help out, the person next to me. How can I help you? What are you struggling? Like, how can I help you? And that it just opens the door. The Bible says they know us by our love. That is an opportunity for me to extend the love of Jesus from me to you.
Yeah.
Who knows how their relationship with God is going to flourish after sort of your gift or your assistance, whatever. So when we talk about compassion, I'm like, but let's go to the Bible.
But do you feel as though when we're talking about the church, because we're talking about the church, do you feel like the church has fostered an environment to where people feel safe to let it be known their issues?
No. And yes.
I was about to say.
But beyond the program, though. I want to talk about it beyond the program.
Yes,
More of conversation of, I know you to where I can build a relationship like you're saying and let you know.
It's most people think of church as the pastor on the stage and what he's preaching. Yes, you should find a pastor who is, preaching the Bible in balance and all of that stuff. But outside of that it becomes the responsibility or the accountability of the body to support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're standing up, you stand on your 2 feet.
Yeah.
You're not standing on your 2 hands. Every single person can do something to contribute to the body. And so if you are in a church where people are not noticing you, and I'm going to intentionally exclude the senior pastor because senior pastors, they have a lot on their plate.
Absolutely.
They do what they can.
They can't do everything.
I believe that they try to approach everything in a balance. But if you are, you see people every single week and they never try to, reach out or understand where you are. Maybe they're not giving you assistance, but at least they see you. They're aware of you. Then I would challenge you that's not a place you need to be in.
So we also got to throw the ball back in the court too of say something.
Absolutely.
Reach out, let it be known. And then you can really see the intention of the place that you are. Because I feel like a lot of people, like this goes back to last season, we were talking about church hurt. And it's like, oh, they don't care about me. It's like, have you ever asked anyone for help to see how they respond to your need? Because I do know working at a church, our phones ring constantly of people who have issues or concerns.
100%.
But here's the thing. So the church, I know a lot of churches will help, right? But I don't feel like this level of help asked for is the same from the people inside. It's like, I think people think a church of, I have it together now because I got Christ. And they're afraid to let it be known. Like, how many people do we know who have testimonies after? And it's like, I was going to church and I was homeless and I was sleeping in my car and da-da-da-da. And people are like, wow, I didn't know that.
That's me. I slept in my car.
So,
while still serving the whole time.
Still serving, still giving my best. Absolutely.
So for the people who are having the mindset of,
You a little bit shook. You all right?
Oh no, I'm listening.
for the people who have the mindset of, I want to help, what can we do to let people know who are listening now, who are saying, I'm in need, but I don't know how to communicate it to the people I'm around that I need help? So how do we teach people to seek compassion?
Stop preaching. Stop preaching. I don't need to hear your financial wisdom, blah, 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 when tomorrow I know I don't have the money to pay such and such bill. No, I need you to help me look for a job.
Yeah.
You can't preach that.
Yeah.
You can show somebody how to freshen up their resume so it look good. You can show somebody how to dress for an interview. You can talk them through all of that stuff. It doesn't have to be, $1 million whatever.
Yeah.
There was at one point there was a couple who was attending our church, and the Lord told me, He was like, just go and talk to them. And I had already made up in my mind, I'm gonna give some money to somebody today. I had already made up in my mind that I was gonna do it.
I just had a little that day.
I just had a little extra in my pocket, and I was just like,
when you feel charitable. All right.
I had already made up in my mind that I was just going to give it away because the Lord had blessed me in that season. And I was just like, I'm just going to be a blessing to somebody. And they just started talking about how they were struggling, feeding their babies and all of that stuff. And I was like, hey, take this. I don't know the ins and outs of having kids because I don't have kids. I do know what it's like to be hungry, though. I know you can get a pack of chicken for $5. Let me give you some money.
Come on here.
So you can go,
Yeah.
And so I think it's just do what you can. And make a regular habit of genuinely asking people, how can you help?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think to answer your question, to basically the closed mouths don't get fed type of situation.
Yeah.
I think that comes a lot of times from relationship building within the body that you're in. So most times when people go silent without saying anything is because they're not in the community and they haven't, and circumstances keep them from being in the community. I'm here to get a word, and sometimes it's the idea that I'm here to get the word, but then I'm gonna be out as soon as that fellowship start happening so that I don't have to talk about it. And the only reason I know this is because this is experience. And it's that type of mindset, because a lot of times you're either going into a new environment, you don't know the culture, you don't know how people are going to respond or react, or if people even have it to help you out. So on one hand, I think it's just getting into relationship, whether that is, joining the praise and worship team, or joining, the ushers, or join where you feel you're called to, because that is where the relationship building starts to happen.
Yeah.
Rarely do you have people walk into a church and say, I was just driving by and I walked in. Usually somebody heard about the church from somebody else. They were invited by somebody else. So there's already some type of relationship going. So my suggestion is always to just be open about it. It's humbling. But like you said, if I put myself out there and you treat me without compassion, I know how to deal with you from this moment going forward.
Yeah.
But most people, if I can't help you, I'm going to point you in the direction of somebody else that I know can help you in this area. And so I think that's why it's important. Like you said, closed mouths don't get fed. Just open up your mouth, because most people are going to do what they can to help you in whatever situation. If you need food, if you need some assistance paying a bill, if you need gas just to get back from work, because that could be an issue. I got the job, but I don't got nowhere to get. I don't have a way to get there.
We're talking about, I know my car. I know my car.
Talking about that. I don't know my car.
That situation.
Look, I don't have gas money, or I don't even have the money to get a metro ticket. Yeah. If you're on a team at a ministry, and it's like, okay, as a leader, and you go to your leader, it's like, I can't do it, but team, let's band together. Let's get them gas money for the week. Or let's get just until they get their first check. Let's get them a card. And things happen like that in community. But community comes from from relationship. So a lot of times people isolate themselves out of shame from the circumstances that you're going through. And there's no need for you to be ashamed of what you're going through, because 9 times out of 10, somebody else in that circle has been through it.
Yeah, and
no matter how great they are now, but that's a part of their testimony. But a lot of times people don't have an opportunity to share their testimony because they don't know what other people are going through. And so it's like this ripple effect that you're not talking, even though you're on the mountain and you're not in the valley right now. You're in the valley, you're not talking. And so it's this ripple effect in this whole circle that we have going on. But you have to talk and open up your mouth, and relationship comes from fostering those environments to where it can happen.
But that's what I was going to say. A lot of times I think we get so busy doing church that we forget to be the church. And it's like we're so stuck on service. And it's like, well, we're doing whatever we can today because we need to get through service. And it's like, yo, like, how's your week?
I feel like that's such a key element. Harping on what Patience said is relationship, because I am one of those people. I'm not shy, but I'm quiet. My mindset is my burden is not your burden. So why would I give you more burden? Why would I think that it's okay to let off what's off my shoulders and add on to yours as if it's your responsibility and I barely know you?
Well, the Bible teaches us to bear each other's burdens. So
right,
as a
but
believer,
some of us, and I feel like it goes deeper into people's character, because I wasn't raised like that. You're not going to walk around telling people your business. You're not going to walk around telling people you haven't ate yet. You're not going to ask somebody else for food, acting like I haven't fed you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't be going out here telling our business.
That's why I feel like it's so important to build those relationships, but also understand that you have to be honest when you're in that relationship. I forget where I heard it, but people say that when someone asks you, how are you doing? Or how have you been? People automatically lie in order to appease other people. If you ask me in a conversation or in a text, how you been? Good. How you been? That's the classic answer. You will never say the honest truth, even though if you were to, you'd be broadening yourself out. You'd actually be building and getting past all the
fluff.
Exactly, all the fluff. Ask me, how have you been? How have I been? I've been struggling. Yeah. That simple little key thing, that simple little question opened up that door that I wasn't gonna give you if you hadn't asked. Yeah. Why? It's because that's the way that I am. I was built to be the silent sufferer, and some people are rocks. That goes to character. Yeah. Some people are rocks. Other people, I don't know what the heck the antonym of rock would be, but some people are meant to be the stable person, the person that you can run to. What happens when you can't? When the rock needs somebody to run to? Yeah. You have all these people trying to take from you, and your mindset is, I have to give. I have to help you out. Yeah. Nobody's asking me. How can I help you? How have you been? Are you struggling? Do you need help?
Yeah.
That relationship is so key.
It's very key, and I think it's twofold, because I did a teaching on that last summer with that whole just off the basis of asking the question, how are you doing? And everybody's first response is, I'm good, how are you? To deflect. Let's not talk about me.
I'm fine.
I'm good, how are you? And it just opened up a whole wave of things for women, because a lot of times it's twofold. One, I'm going to say I'm good because I don't feel like, I don't want you to feel like I'm putting my burdens on you. But then on the other hand, are you really asking how you're doing to really see how that person is doing? Or are you asking it out of pleasantries because it's a habit? Because a lot of times what'll happen is people that are an open book, and it's like, how are you doing? Well, I'm struggling and and it's not going good. You write that person off as being negative, or, oh, here you go with the Debbie Downer. And it's like, no, like this, you asked,
right.
Like, do you want my true honest answer? And I think that's the taboo in that whole situation, because a lot of times if I'm going to ask you this question, I really want to know, and I'll ask you twice. Be like, how are you doing? I'm good. You good? Yeah, you sure?
That's
like,
that little hesitation.
I saw a little shake.
Right. Because, are you sure? Like, because on the receiving, talking about compassion, on the receiving end, it's just like, no, I'm good. You picked up on something, but you continued to just let it go over your head.
Yeah. That's major.
And so,
Man, I feel that.
like,
I feel that because I went through a season of that, and conviction or whatever, but I went through a season of that. When I was younger, around 15 or so, I dealt with a lot of troubled teenagers, people that dealt with suicide or suicidal tendencies, alcoholism, drug problems, stuff like that. And I'm the type of person who will dig deep because I'm the quiet rock. People tend to open up quickly, and I love that now. I didn't back then when I was younger, and I didn't really understand how to deal with the burden. So I closed myself off to those people, and I hate that. Luckily, there weren't any serious repercussions, but I do regret that at one point I would see those signs and I would be like, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with this right now. I have my own issues. I'm just going to keep it pushing.
Yeah. Or like try to avoid the person. No, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, because
I'd ignore your text.
Yeah, for real. Because I remember, and I don't know, I know I'm not trying to be too churchy, but people gravitate towards oil.
I was about to say that's a gift. That's a calling on your life that, if you don't have the right people around you that you can go to, that the rock can go to, because the rock only has a select. It ain't
a lot.
It's only a selective few.
Yeah.
That you can usually go to be able to dump, to be able to get that wisdom, because you're so full. And I got this person's burdens, I got this person's burdens, and this on top of mine.
Yeah.
And so you need those people that you can go to and dump. But if you haven't even had those relationships built yet, you get to the point where it's like, nope, I'm good. And I'm not dealing with this.
So I know for me, one of the things, like when I was dealing with my bout of depression, I had to get comfortable because who I would seek off of firsthand because they were doing better than me, I couldn't run to them because they was running to me. So you have to be comfortable with the person you least expect. It's just reach out. Somebody. Don't reach out to someone because of their accomplishments, or don't reach out to someone based upon their influence, because 9 times out of 10, the people with the most influence are the most hurting. I mean, it's real. I mean, so for me, it was like, I can't even tell you what I'm going through because I've heard what you told me that you're going through. And that gets back to I don't feel comfortable even getting into my issue because after what you told me, life ain't that bad. But it doesn't stop my issue. So it's like we always go tomato for tomato of like, well, I'm going through depression. Bruh, I had 9 people leave me this week out of their bodies. I lost my job. And it's like,
y'all ever had that competition with people?
Yeah, and it's like, I don't even want to talk
how
to
bad
you.
your day was.
Yeah,
it's like, yo, how you been? Man, I lost my job. Man, I feel you. I couldn't get a good breakfast this morning. I
think it's
it's real.
It's really
it.
It is
it's
real
to the person.
It is because and I don't think it's a matter of competition. I think it's that fact that people don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to listen. So what we are listening in order to respond.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I didn't even call you for that. Like I didn't call you for that. Like, cause 9 times out of 10, if I am expressing to you, it's because you've done so much expression with me. Yeah. So now I feel like we have that type of relationship. But if it's always one-sided,
man,
and I actually take this opportunity because I really just need a listening ear right now, and you shoot back with how bad it's going for you, at that point I'm putting my wall back up and we just going to focus on you. All right, let's go.
You know you were hurting in the first place. That's how you know. Because whatever the reception of it is, if they kick it back to you and you feel some sort of way about it, they're hurting too.
Yeah.
Like, why would you try to compare your bad day to my bad day? Can't we just both have bad days?
let's just sit down and eat some ice cream.
Like, is it okay for us both to have bad days?
No, for real.
Assumptions are a
After
silent
the
killer.
Yeah.
You think people will receive and they won't. You think some people will not receive and they do.
Yeah.
There are relationships that you do not have purely based on your assumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are opportunities that you do not have purely based on an assumption. It's a silent killer. It will thwart whatever life God is trying to give to you. There are people who are trying to pay your bills. There are people who are trying to give you food. There are things that is trying to get into your pocket, and you can't get it. You can't receive it because of your assumption. That is a device from the devil.
Yeah.
To make you think something contrary to the character of Christ. And you just gotta
let's just get real to it. I think the problem is we don't get attached to the people that God has destined for us because we have our friends list, like it's MySpace, in our mind of who we think should be the people around us in this season. It's like you don't wait for God to, and God presents opportunities for you to connect to people, but it's like, no, I want you to be my friend, or I want you to be my listening ear. I want you to be this to me and this to me and this to me. And the person's like, bro, I didn't even know we was that cool. So you have this mindset of, and it's like a one-sided relationship of, you're my best friend and you're everything to me. And the person's like, I can't stand when this person calls. You're like, you know what I mean? Like it's real. So it's like really assess and think, okay, does the person feel the same way about you that you feel about them? And that should determine how much weight you put into, is this a person I can run to and feel as though is a confidant to me? Like even like us. Like our normal conversations are very short.
And that's what I like about you. And this is why we have remained.
They're really short. And if he calls, I'm picking up because I know it's something. If I call, it's like, all right, Gabe don't pick up the phone for nobody.
And this is true.
At all.
And this is how I know you live a small life. I'm not saying you in particular.
Oh no, I do.
I'm saying the person who that is
Who you coming for?
is the case.
I'm
coming for everybody.
Just this
the
real
Bible
quick.
says, and we use this for giving. We say this a lot at our church. The world of the generous gets larger and larger, while the world of it gets smaller or it stays stagnant.
Yeah.
If God is just calling us to give so much more than we get, but we can trust him to receive or to replenish what we do give. And so if you are taking inventory of the people who are in your life and you're like, you can be my friend, but you can't, based on some superficial thing, how can the Lord trust you with a large life when you're being so selective about these certain people, what they supposed to look like, what they supposed to sound like? This is what my friends wear. These are the places where my friends go. These are the issues that my friends contribute to.
Wow.
These are the people that my friends vote for.
Yeah.
But God is calling you to live a life of influence, but you only hang around Trump supporters. God is calling you to live a life of influence, but you only hang around Biden supporters. Well, how are you going to infect the world or be an example of love in the world? Your brain is so small.
Wow.
It's like a little bit. You need to pray that the Holy Ghost help you be able to have a conversation with people who do not think like you, who do not do the same things as you.
That's good.
Receive people who don't talk like you. Receive them so that God can do something through you to them.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think when that was good to me because
I was looking at you because you were looking at me. Sorry.
No, because we get so boxed into what we want everything to look like.
Yeah.
And who we want to be in our lives. And you hear stories of people who have been friends for years and it's like, we never saw us being here. Or I didn't even like her in the beginning, or I didn't even like him, and we're the best of friends. But something had to happen.
Came to play the bass.
You know,
Oh my goodness.
I came to fill in one weekend.
I came to get some coins.
Still here.
I ain't left.
Look, they on the third job.
That's real.
But hold on, wait, but it's crazy because we don't allow room, for God to do that and create those organic friendships. Yeah. And one thing I think, how you said, I want you to be this type of friend and you to be that type of friend. You know me. I'm gonna look at both ends of the spectrum. If you cannot be that for that person. I remember in college, I had to tell my friend, I am not that person, and I cannot. Not only can I not fulfill that for you, but I will not be that type of person for you to feel okay. Now, I'm all down for loving you how you receive love. But as far as being that person for you, I cannot do that. And so when it comes to relationships and friendships, you have to be able to assess, like, if somebody is requiring something of you that you know you cannot fulfill in their life, tell it. Because what we do now is we just ghost people.
It's okay.
This is good tea. We do ghost people.
We just ghost them.
I know.
Like,
my bottle's still full, but I'm gonna drink a couple.
There's a few saints still on red.
Like, oh man.
And I put my read receipts on. I seen your text message.
Yes, he does. He leaves it on read.
I have no shame whatsoever. I read your text message. I'm just not responding.
It's real.
But it is like we just ghost people. But to me, I felt like it was necessary in that point in space because it was like, okay, I do value you as a friend. I love your friendship. But I just need to let you know from this moment on, like, we can't do that. Because
you messing my day up.
Right. And I can't, fulfill that for you, but I will do X, Y, and Z. I'm always here to ride for you. Look, you my girl. But to me, now, after I give you that information, it's up to you to decide if you want to carry on with this friendship or not. Yes, things are going to change, but we can always build back up. And according to her, because I couldn't do that, we had to cut the friendship. All right, cool. But at the end of the day, I did what I was supposed to do, and I said my piece. I did not let that continue on, and then it's like, oh, there was no closure. Oh, I just don't deal with her. Because years later, we're talking again. But she understood. It leaves room for that reconciliation because there's nothing left to guessing. There's nothing left to chance. But that also comes down to communication. You have to learn how to communicate in every avenue of your life, whether it's in a workspace, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in an engagement, a friendship. You have to learn how to communicate, even in church, because people are going to receive things and perceive things how they see it. But unless they're vocal about it, they could be jabbed, cut, hurt, and be holding on to that, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
I think the most compassionate people have a high level of relational intelligence.
Wow.
And what I mean is they understand themselves. They understand what they contribute, but they also understand other people. I see you. I understand who you are, what you contribute, but also what you have need of. So then I can categorize. We're very intentional about everything. We'll do our budgets. We'll do meal plans, but we'll be,
Brian,
so nonchalant about, we'll be nonchalant about the people in our lives. Yeah. Absolutely not. God is just calling us to a higher level. I just want to be the best example of godly love in the community that I'm in, that I can be. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care, if I'm sitting with such and such and you don't like them. I do not care that you do not like them. Yeah. Because in this moment, God is trying to do something through me to them. So you can take your opinion somewhere else, wherever you found it, put it back in your pocket, hold on to it, whatever you got to do. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to be an example of God's love to this person. Because when push comes to shove, he's looking at me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what did you do with that person that was connected to you? What did you talk about with that person? How did you treat them? All of that stuff. So we're getting back to compassion. He's calling me to snuff on that. Because when I go to sleep at night and there was somebody I could have helped, you better believe he reminded me. He like, you could have did something right there.
Yeah.
And you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I also think there's a difference in the strength of bonds that you're building. Some friendships are seasonal and you're meant to be a stepping stone, but there are others that are meant to be there for a long time.
Absolutely. Again, to the relational intelligence. Like, you just have to know.
Acquaintances.
The only way you can do that is if you're invested at some level.
Yeah.
The level of investment is going to give you a level of return or lack thereof. Yeah. So I think it's just, I agree 100% with what you're saying.
I just had to make sure.
So y'all seen this on camera. He just came for me just a little bit.
So here's the challenge for this week. These goofballs.
You need your cap.
You done lost your cap.
It's right here.
It's
right
gone.
here.
It's all good.
You want me to pick that up for you?
No, it's all right.
This is my contribution to your life. There you go, sir. Put a cap back on your teeth.
I prefer the coin, but all right.
So here's the challenge for this week. I want everyone to not worry about what other people aren't doing for you, but the challenge this week is to assess what you're doing for others. Really think about your friend circle, the people that you influence, the people who reach out to you, and determine, have I been a good friend? Have I been a good person? Have I looked over you on purpose? And find a way to reconcile it. If you know you haven't talked to someone in months and they've been reaching out to you and it seems as though it's a cry for help, but you just really don't feel like dealing with it, deal with it.
Yeah.
Reconcile the relationships that you know you had a hand in making go bad. You know, my challenge for you this week is to really think back. How can I be a better friend? How can I be a better person? Do I need to talk better? Do I need to listen more? Do I need to respond from my heart and not from what someone told me to say? So anybody got anything else to close out with?
Actually, I would just, some of the best advice that I've gotten from I call her my sister friend. But when I was going through a difficult situation, she was saying, you know, figure out what you need to do. Just because somebody texts you something, it doesn't mean you have to respond right away. And she asked me the question, why do you feel like you have to respond? I was like, well, because I have to. Like, I can't not respond. You know? And she's like, but why? Why do you feel like that? And I was like, oh, it really made me think. She said, you need to figure out what you need to do. Don't react, but respond. So in everything, dealing with compassion, dealing with friendships, dealing with political conversations, you know, do not react. Take your time to respond. Because too many times we find ourselves getting in these heated, debated, you know, conversations and, you know, debates going back and forth with people is because we're reacting because we felt an emotional response. But if you take the time to evaluate your emotional response, then you can accurately, godly and wisely respond to that issue or to that person or that situation. And when you do that, 9 times out of 10, you're going to pray about it. Like, okay, God, help me. Yeah. Like, what do you want me to say? Or what do you want me to do in this situation? And that was some of the best advice that I think in my adult life have ever, you know, received, because it's changed how I respond and how I react in every area. So that would be my challenge to you. Shout out to my hey Carmen.
What up, Miss Galliano? All right, y'all. Well, we pray that y'all stay blessed, love better, live better.
Go feed somebody.
Yeah,
take them to dinner.
Yeah, love on purpose. All right, y'all.
Stop
We'll catch y'all.
at me. So what's up?
Okay, we ask you every week.
Every week.
Okay.
We ask this man to go to dinner with us, lunch, all that.
They ask me don't go eat. When I have my gym clothes on, knowing I'm going to the gym right afterwards.
I'm gonna need you to
Gabriel,
make some time.
I have asked you when you have not been in gym clothes.
I have been waiting for what? 5-6 years for this macaroni and cheese.
Oh God! Expose us, Lord.
Huh?
Where's the compassion?
I'm still cooking this pre-made Velveeta, and you over there talking about 7 layers of cheese that I haven't heard about.
He's a little bit hurt about it. We need to address this too.
I'm gonna have to make some mac and cheese for next Friday.
Thanksgiving's coming.
Shabaya. Well, Saints, we'll catch y'all next episode. We got some inner turmoil we got to work through. All right, y'all. Peace.